Hello and welcome back to the Tucker and Crowley Report. Franklin Tucker, editor of the Belmontonian, is with me, and I'm Mike Crowley. And if the program seems a little bit scary today, it is Halloween, the day that we're recording this program, so we will try to keep the frights to a minimum. All right, first I want to mention that any views expressed on this program are those of your hosts, myself and Franklin Tucker, and do not represent the views of Belmont Media, the town of Belmont, Comcast, or Verizon. All right, Franklin, let's talk about, first up, what's in the news.
Well, let's talk about why we're having a special town meeting in the next few weeks, and that has to do with the MBTA Communities Act. And that is moving along smartly, as they say, the town meeting will be able to, will be voting on one of two maps.
Now, Franklin, these were discussed at a public information session held by the select board. What can you tell us about the options that we'll see at town meeting?
As one of the few people who attended, it's going to be interesting because what you have is after a long period of study and developing these maps, because the state is requiring this to be done by every community that has some kind of MBTA connection to it.
Right. And I would just say that we've had two committees in effect that have given weeks and weeks and weeks of their time to these maps. First, our MBTA Communities Advisory Committee, and then followed by the planning board. And so what are the options that we're going to see then?
Well, the planning board has voted on one of the two maps, and this map has to do it's the map where it's not including the pure code.
Okay.
The pure code. It's the one that's much more of a commercial friendly map. Mm-hmm. And it has, if you want to make a difference, the main parts of the map, which is, these potential zoning changes in Belmont Center and Waverly, mm-hmm. They're basically the same. They don't change between the two maps. What you do have is you have a change in map one, which it makes a small district it's what's called Belmont Corner. It's at the Watertown Cambridge Belmont line.
It's sort of the southernmost edge of corner of Belmont.
That's right. It's precinct 7, and map 2 would include the Pure Code site as a potential large residential area. So those are the two are going to vote on. Now it was decided last night by Mike Widmer, who is our town moderator and is going to be leading town meeting. He has a special way that he's going to approach how these are going to be voted on. Now, there's only one map that is being presented as an article before town meeting.
Okay.
And that is map 1. And that is the one without pure code. It's the one with Belmont's corners. And that was approved by the planning board 3-2. So it's getting favorable action by the planning board, and the select board will likely do the same. Although you should also know that it appears that Elizabeth Dion, who's the chair of the select board, will not be able to vote.
She's recused herself. And what's the reason, Franklin?
She owns property in the Waverly Square area, which would be affected by this. She went to the ethics board, and for some reason, the ethics board is just not processing her claim.
So she's not heard back from the ethics board, and she is concerned that she may not before town meeting, so she's just going to recuse herself.
Which also it leads to an interesting question that was brought up at the joint meeting, and that was, should everybody who has property in that area, whether you're a property owner or you own property in that area, as a landlord, should you recuse yourself too if you're a town meeting member? And basically that would be a good thing, everybody says, but no one's going to be requiring it. So let's move on. So the way Mike Widmer is going to set this up is that what you're going to have is a main motion will be map 1.
Okay.
And but everybody expects that there will be an amendment that will be brought up at town meeting, and that will be map 2.
Okay.
So you have map 1 and you have map 2.
And map two
Is pure code.
is pure code.
Right.
And so we take a site that's all zoned commercial currently,
Mhm.
and that would be converted to largely residential, but mixed use.
That's right. It would be mixed use on the ground floor.
Right.
And it would be only a section of the ground floor.
Okay.
And it would not be the entire length of this development. It would be basically the corner of the development. So at that time, Mike will open the mic for everybody to speak, and they're going to be debating both of these.
Okay.
Yeah, you can debate one. You can say I favor 1 and speak on that. You can say I favor 2, or you can say I favor 1 because 2 is bad, and it will be a general debate on both maps.
Okay.
Then what will happen is, because map 2 was an amendment, it would be voted on then. So that will decide which map goes forward. So if map 2 is defeated, and this is a 50+1, it just needs one vote margin to be approved. If map 2 is approved, then map 1 will not be voted on, and then we will go forward with that. So
now I do want to ask you first, Franklin. Isn't it anticipated that there will be additional amendments?
That's also. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So what will be voted on is map 2.
Okay.
And that's because it's an amendment. If it's defeated, we go right to map 1, and then we have these. Then you could see amendments and stuff like that. And these amendments have to be something within the town, within what the town can do. Like, you can't say, well, I'll vote for map 2. And now I want an amendment to make sure that the developer of Pure Code has to pay for all the environmental. And they go like, we don't do that. It's the state that does that. So it have to be within a margin of what is controllable by the town. And they're going to work through each of these amendments. So we're talking about a midnight and beyond kind of night for that. Then they're going to vote. Then you're going to go back to vote on the main article, which will be map 1 or map 2, and that will have to win by one vote also. And then that will be sent to the state. Now, talking about amendments, one of the planning board members said, "Well, what if somebody put an amendment on map 1, which was approved?" And that's like, oh man, don't bring that up. We don't want amendments on map 1 before we even get map 2 on the board.
Well, in fact, it's probably worth mentioning, Franklin, that if someone did want to put forth an amendment to either of the maps, I mean, the state has already given feedback and essentially approved either map.
Either map has passed muster, as and
so if town meeting did something different, there is a risk that
exactly, and that was one of the reasons why you have to make sure the amendments are proper. You can't have an amendment that is out of left field or anything like that, or making demands that can't be met. So it's going to be an interesting night, and it's going to be something that you see Mike Whitmer having to have a tight hand on this, because it could easily just wind up out of control. Hopefully that we can get Mr. Baptista early on so he can call the question.
So there is so given the sentiment in town, and there's a mix of sentiment.
There is. You bet.
There is both support for meeting the requirements of the state, and there are folks who are also saying, why can't we just do what Milton is doing and watch that play out in the courts and then see what we have to do? That's not going to happen because the town is very. I understood. that the town is concerned about becoming embroiled in a legal battle with the state because the town simply doesn't have the resources to fight a big legal battle.
And there's also the issue that I know people are saying, well, can we afford to have 6-story buildings all in Waverly Square? These changes are aspirational. It would allow people to build a little bit more on all these little plots and everything there. It doesn't mean it's going to happen.
It doesn't actually mean that we'll see the development that the zoning would allow.
Right, and I love the statement by we have a firm from North Carolina that does student enrollment. We had that firm.
Oh, the
McKibben firm, and Mr. McKibben was speaking about the MBTA communities, and people are saying, well, should we put or should we increase what our enrollment should be? He just went like, unless they're digging dirt, it's meaningless. And so just think of it that way. Unless you've got somebody coming to your house, knocking on the door and saying, hey, here's X amount of money. I want to build a 7-story building. Which it's not, they're not going to build 7-story buildings. But, it really is just, it's not happening.
All right. And then, so in addition to the division between those who are supportive of going forward with an MBTA Communities plan and those who are not, you also have some division among those supporting going forward with a plan between whether that Pure Coat site, which is currently zoned all commercial, is in effect made available for housing or not.
Right, and that's what these amendments are going to be about. It really is. I think there are people who are going to put these out, but I think there's even a bigger issue, and that is that you're going to have a lot of people coming to town meeting who have no idea what this is about. They kind of have an idea, but when they start to hear it, they're like, "What?"
No, I think
there's a lot of people who just, as Taylor Yates, who's the chairman of the planning board, said, zoning is complicated. It's a tough haul. You have to go into these things and know what you're talking about. And part of that meeting that was on Wednesday is he gave a cheat sheet. Basically what are these bylaws meaning? What is it? Put it in simple language, because it really has to be put in simple language, because it really is a complicated area of the law. And not only will you hear a lot from the town moderator, Mike Whitmer, you're going to hear a lot from the town council, because he's going to have, and he's a good person to have, Mr. Hall, Lawyer Hall, because he does this for a living. He does this type of land zoning, for other communities, including his own community up on the North Shore.
All right, so it'll make for an interesting town meeting.
And long.
All right, and a long town meeting, although we only have 3 nights.
That's right.
And they could go long. All right, so moving on to our next story. So we have some apparent movement towards implementation of a DEI recommendation in Belmont. Tell me what this is.
And what does DEI stand for?
Diversity,
equity
and inclusion.
That's right. And that is it's very controversial around the country. There is one presidential candidate who's ranting and raving about DEI. So it's been in the news a lot. And we have an implementation committee here in Belmont. And one of their first things that they would like to do is that they would like to make gender-free bathrooms.
Okay, so
now before anybody starts freaking out, it's not as expensive as you think.
Okay, well, tell us about it, Franklin. What does this mean in terms of what the town has decided?
Well, it would mean that any single stall room or bathroom will be a gender-free bathroom. And basically what that means is they're going to slap a placard on the door that says, this is a gender-free bathroom. Now, it doesn't mean that it can be in any place that has stalls. Like if there's 5 stalls,
right?
You can't. That will not be part of the DEI gender-free bathroom.
So this is basically only applicable to to single toilet bathrooms in effect
And not all
in town facilities.
Right.
And how many of those do we have?
Not many.
Right.
It's not like it's going to change anybody's world. But if you go down to the town hall, there are I think 4 single bathrooms. They're all single. They're all single. There's no stalls.
Okay.
So they would change that. They would put placards on that. You wouldn't have them in schools. Almost every school bathroom is stalls.
Yeah.
So
multiple stalls.
Multiple stalls. Yeah.
All right. So for the affected bathrooms, the placard would
just it's a way of just saying, hey, you're included. We're not trying to set you apart.
So male, female, non-binary, anyone can use that particular bathroom with the placard.
So don't freak out anybody hearing this in other parts of the country who may have problems with this.
So Franklin, I do want to ask you. So we've had a committee or working group that's been sort of parsing over potential DEI recommendations for some time. Is this the end of the story, or is there more that we're likely to see in the future?
We'll probably see more, but I think everybody realizes this can be fraught with a lot of emotion. And I think they're being very, very diligent in just making sure that they're not going to, I don't want to use the word offend, but be sensible to what other people may say, and are their objections, worthy.
Okay.
We don't want people just ranting and raving. We want actual movement towards a more equitable society. So let's go to it.
All right. So moving on. Taylor Yates, who has decided to run for select board, has just filed campaign finance papers for his campaign. Here's why he's running.
So Taylor Yates, you're running for select board. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you running for select board?
I think this is a really important time in Belmont's history. Belmont has a couple of futures ahead of it, and a lot of the decisions that decide whether we're in a really great future or a less great future are going to be made over the next 3 years. As chair of the planning board, I think I would bring an important perspective to the select board so that we have that hands-on experience with a lot of the zoning and planning questions that we have to shape that future.
All right, so up next, let's talk about what do you do with your pumpkins after trick or treat?
Well,
Franklin?
One thing that says, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take them out into the woods and just leave them there for squirrels.
All right, we don't have lots of woods in town,
Yeah,
Franklin.
that's right.
I don't know whether the habitat is accepting pumpkins.
Oh, no, they're not. So what we're having for I think this is 7th year, is the Pumpkin Rescue and Charity Donations drive-through, and it's a real nice way of getting rid of your pumpkins, because what happens to most people is that their jack-o'-lanterns stay outside and they
stay outside until they rot.
They rot,
and then they go to the trash.
Or some kid takes it in the middle of your street and breaks it, like it always happened in my place. So Belmont Helps, our great community charitable organization, on Sunday, November 3rd, between 9:30 and 11:30, you can bring your pumpkins to Town Hall, and they'll be collected for composting. And bring your change, bring gift cards, a few dollars, and donate to Belmont Helps. And it's a great way of getting the kids involved, throwing pumpkins into a backward truck,
and helping an organization that does a lot of work for those in need in Belmont.
That's true.
All right, so Franklin, let's move on to your sports update.
Yeah, so really quickly, the regular season is over for the fall season. I believe all our teams made the playoffs, but only one team actually will have home games, and that is our spectacular field hockey team, which was finally rated 5th in the state in Division I. That's the top division. They're going to hold their first game at 4:30 on Friday, November 1st. and that is going to be against Barnstable.
Okay.
And it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be warm. Come out and cheer these really great athletes. Belmont has a very, very good team. In fact, the Boston Globe called them the sleepers for Division One. So they could go a long way. And it appears that their next game will be early next week. And that will be also a home game, and it'll probably be against a very good native team. So that's going to be a great show. So come see those matches. Boys soccer just missed out getting a home game. As of the latest information, they just missed out. Girls volleyball is today going down all the way to Fall River to play against Bishop Fian, and who Belmont has a big rivalry at one time in swimming.
Okay.
Not volleyball, but swimming.
Thank you, Franklin. As always, you can find more of Franklin's reporting at belmontonian.com. Be sure to tune in next time, and I promise you it will be less scary than today's Halloween episode. So, see you then.